Unmute. Okay. Let's see. Stream. Cancel. Hey everyone, I don't know if you all can hear me. Let's see. Um, yes, there is audio. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. Setting up the new mic and sometimes with the camera and stuff, there was definitely a little bit of issues there, so I had to start a new live stream. Hey Valerie, hey oh my knickers, how's it going? Yeah, no, I'm excited. Finally got a new mic. It's crazy. Hey Maria, how's it going? Hey Anna, hey Strings and Pedals, what's up? Let's see, let's make this a little bit bigger. I don't know the appropriate place to put this, so you're gonna have to let me know one way or another. Let's lower it just a bit. Hey, what's up, Lay? It's good to see you as well, Valerie. Hey Jade, how's it going? Hey Maria. Yes, no. It's crazy because in some of my old live streams you all talked about how bad the audio was. And I didn't realize how horrific it was until I had a video where I talked about some criticism I've gotten, like on my video about my suicidal ideation, and I had the criticism about being effeminate and all that. And I wanted to cut that up and make it into a video because I liked how I had approached it. But the audio was so bad, I was like, I can't release this as a YouTuber. And so the fact that some of you have sat with me through some of the worst possible audio means a lot to me because you must all really like my content because it was unlistenable to. That's not even a word. I speak English, I promise. Gotta set some things up. Also, I am chewing gum at the moment, but it's nicotine gum because I'm trying to quit vaping again. But I'll take it out in a second. Yeah, no, I like the hey, what's up, Jacob? I want to take a second to say thank you, a huge thank you to Jacob and some other people that have donated to like through super chats because I have had people donate through Venmo, PayPal. I have my lovely Patreons, but with I bought this with definitely the super chat money that I got because I thought it was fitting that I would put the money that I made through live streaming towards something that made live streaming better. So in general, like all the donations I get goes directly back into my channel. My ad revenue helps pay off like other bills and stuff, but for me, I guess it's important that like any money that gets donated to my channel goes back into my channel. No crack on with the gum. Hey Henry, how's it going? Henry, thank you so much for your comment. I haven't had a chance to respond yet, but I'll definitely get to it. It meant a lot. In general, I've been kind of overwhelmed lately, and I knew today was coming up. So today is the anniversary of my father's death. It's been 11 years, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit today, like how I feel about it, like how do we handle loss, like how do we process it and stuff like that. Yeah, no, and in general, like I mean, let's cover the good first, I guess. But I don't know, I'm super excited about something as silly as this mic because I love being a content creator. I really do. But live streaming, I don't know. I like normal videos versus live streaming for different reasons. Like I wouldn't say I have a preference between the two. I love my normal content, but with my normal content, like I'm just kind of talking at people. Whereas at least with live streams, I kind of feel like actually interacting with people, which means a lot more to me. Obviously, at the end of the day, this is just I don't know, this is just me kind of talking to chat bubbles, so there it's still a little bit disconnected, but I don't know, especially in with mental health and all my experiences, like one of my favorite things is talking to people. Not s- I mean, I don't know if I have the best advice in life, but more just like working to understand people and hear other people's experiences. So on the terms of content creation as a like streamer, I don't know, I'm rather excited about this moment in particular. Hey Simone, how's it going? Oh, just jumping in real quick to say much love and hugs. My father passed away February 9th, 2017. It never gets easier, just harder to remember. Definitely, Samantha, I relate to that. It's crazy because at 11 years, I'm about to turn 28. We're quickly reaching the point where like it's like 50-50 split between the amount of time I had 16 years with my father, almost 17, and now 11 years without my father. So it's reaching that 50-50 point, and I don't know, there's like a sense of sadness as I keep on getting to the point where like not having a father is the majority experience of my life. So I don't know. It's weird and um difficult. And some of the other topics I'll talk as the live stream will go. For me, processing my father's death or like, I don't know, remembering it is weird because there's so many other things attached to it. It's never just, oh, and my dad died. It's always something more complex. Let's try this. Yeah, Eric, that's tough. Like, one of the things that so my dad died when I was almost 17, like I said, and I feel like that's a really tough age because on one level, like I'm super happy that I got 16 years with him. That's more than some people got. That's more than my younger siblings got. That's more than Eric got. But on another level, it's kind of tough because like 16, 17, you're like that's where you begin to really understand adult problems. So, with my younger siblings, I've talked to them about my dad's passing, and for them, it's this very abstract kind of thing that's very hazy. They don't have great memories of it. And I think maybe that might be a blessing and a curse to some extent. But for me, because I was 16, it's so vividly clear and the way I felt about it. And I have videos about why I blame myself for my father's death. I don't currently feel that way, but I don't know. It's weird. Let's see. Valerie, I don't know. I might do a podcast one day. I don't know. I feel like for a podcast, I would need a host. I don't know. A podcast is not out of the question though. We stand the boom arm and everything. Definitely. Yeah. So, I don't know. My life in general right now is kind of difficult because I'm struggling. Like I've talked about on my channel, I'm struggling with depression, suicidal ideation. But right now, the most difficult thing I'm struggling with is my binge eating disorder and my body dysmorphia because I've gained a lot of weight ever since I quit fitness to try to stop self-harming. And for me it's a bit, I don't know, bittersweet because my binge eating disorder started today, 11 years ago. I remember the first time I binged was to cope with my dad's death on this day 11 years ago, and I've been struggling with binge eating ever since. I've dealt with it in a variety of ways with my binge eating. It's been, I don't know. I've tried to use fitness or like a dangerous chemical to deal with it. But one of the things that's really difficult is like, for the most part, my dad's death is something I've processed and come to terms with. But it's weird because this thing of binge eating disorder that I developed still is with me to this day, and I really struggled to deal with it. Now, I don't really necessarily struggle to overcome my binge eating disorder because of unprocessed emotions with my father, more so more recent traumatic events I went through. But I don't know. For me, it's this anniversary is particularly difficult for me because I'm dealing with this body dysmorphia and gaining all this weight and struggling with my binge eating disorder. And I'm reminded on this day why it started and why I've been dealing with it for 11 years. Volunteer as host. My dad used to go to my football games, and now I look over and he's not there. Damn, that's really tough. Most underrated channel on this platform. Thank you so much. I'm gonna fuck your name up, and I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna say Fuza, Fuzza. Um, I don't know. I'm sorry if I messed that up. One of the lore items of my live streams is that I'm horrible at pronouncing people's names. Anja, hi. So glad I made it to the stream, even if I won't be able to stay because I have to get up in 8 hours. Yeah, no, I totally appreciate it. One of the things that's interesting, a good problem to have is that for whatever reason, I have a large audience in vastly different time zones, which is really cool. Like, I have a lot of people in Germany, a few people in Australia, England, which is really amazing. But I sort of feel bad because I'm operating obviously on a US time zone and times that make sense here. Ooh, Samantha. It was realizing the other day I couldn't entirely remember how my dad sounded when he talked. That was just so strange. Yeah, no, it's hard because like sometimes I try to remember how my dad acted, and it's tough because at this point it feels more like a dream than like real memories. It's been so long, 11 years. And that's kind of I don't know, that's it kind of sucks. And one of the things that's crazy is like I've watched my mom change a lot as a person. She used to be rather kind of, I don't know, unhealthy or dealing with things. And my mom and I didn't have the best relationship growing up, but over the last few years, I've really worked on that relationship and I've gotten to know my mom as a person, which is great. Like, one of the things I realized was like, I was so sad about my dad's death. I kind of forgot I had another parent that was still alive. So I was like, well, like, I'm really sad that I won't ever know my dad as a person. And it was this huge loss. But then I was like, well, I do still have a mom, and even though our relationship is anything but great, I can do something about that. So, I mean, on a positive end, that happened, but it also sucks because, like, I don't know, my relationship with my mom has changed so much for the better, and I've really gotten to know her. I'll never have the opportunity with my dad. And it sucks because right before he died, I remember we had this conversation where we went to this Kroger parking lot and, I had just I mean, I don't smoke weed now, I'm not really a big like, I don't really like weed, but at the time, I was in football, and I had friends that smoked weed, and my dad I came home from hanging out with them, and my dad smelled weed on me, and I thought he was gonna kick my ass, and I thought he was gonna be super angry with me, but he took me, just me, and I have 6 siblings, so, getting one-on-one time with a parent is huge when you have that many siblings. He took me to the Kroger parking lot, and it was the first time he started talking about his experience as a teenager, and he talked about how he smoked weed and, the dangers of that or why it led to bad situations, and it was the first time my dad talked to me as an adult. Like, it was still kind of undertones of parent to child, but, like, every other opportunity was my dad just, being a parent, but this was the first time he kind of opened up the curtain and showed me a bit of his life, and it sucks because that was, like, a week before he died, and, really the only moment we had where it was, like, getting to know him as an individual. Let's see, some comments. It's all good, I don't really know how to pronounce it myself, honestly. And I'm sorry, you're still struggling with this. Yeah, I mean, also, I'll get into another thing I'm struggling with here in just a second. Jordan, I've also been struggling with binge eating since trying to recover from bulimia, so I feel you, bro. Yeah, it's tough because I've always been a binge eater. I nearly died from my atypical bulimia, but my bulimia, I mean, most bulimia is this way, but my bulimia or my purging behavior of abusing through either taking a life-threatening chemical or abusive amounts of working out was always to counteract my binging, right? So I quit. It was hard for me to quit fitness because that was my purging behavior in the form of my atypical bulimia. I was able to do it because of a bunch of things I'll talk about eventually on my channel, but I finally quit fitness, which was so huge for me because that's my favorite form of self-harm. I have a whole video about it. But the thing that sucks about quitting fitness is as healthy as that is, all the effects of my binge eating suddenly became so dominant in my life. I've gained over 30 pounds, and so it's really tough because at least when I was self-harming through fitness, that was bad, but at least I didn't have to deal with the more serious issue, which is my body dysmorphia, gaining weight, my disordered eating, just all of that. Let's see. Valerie says, same here. So many unanswered questions, things I wish I could ask my mom. Definitely. Oh, my knickers. I love when people point out things that I do that remind them of my dad. I feel more close to him. That's so much more a part of who I am and my behavior. Definitely. I try to not remember miles too much because every time you remember something, your brain actually rewrites and likely slightly falsifies the memory, and I don't want to lose the real memories. That's such an interesting point. It's hard because when people die, they become, I don't know, encapsulated as they were, for the better or for the worse, right? Like, at least with my dad, I tend to forget some of the bad things about our relationship. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I love my dad, but, I'm not a healthy communicator, very old school, very, we don't say I love you, got angry when something bad happened. My dad was a flawed man, but it's tough because when someone dies, you have a tendency to, I don't know, latch onto the most strong memories. Sometimes it's really negative memories. I know some people who either their partners or parents have died and their relationship is really toxic or damaging. And so that sucks because that person gets, cemented in that role. And so I don't know, it's hard having a healthy remembrance of someone. I don't know. My mom has almost died about 3 times. I struggle with navigating the relationship with my parents because I always feel like they're going to die. It's rough. I'm sorry for your loss, man. Yeah, having an adult to adult relationship with parents is so challenging and difficult because it requires both of you to act like adults. And ironically, many of the people I've talked to, our parents are not great at that, and they have a lot of their very own human flaws and issues they're struggling with. Well, gotta go. Hope everyone has good. Thank you so much for popping in, Eric. I appreciate it. Jade, you can be proud of yourself. You reached the goal. You made it yourself. Nice. Hey, Billy, how's it going? Jade, thank you, Henry. I really appreciate that. I set a goal. I set myself a goal to put on 7 pounds to try to make myself feel better, change my body, maybe feel better about myself. And now I've reached that goal. I'm still unhappy and I'm struggling. Yeah, it's really difficult because I think the thing with, body change or weight loss or weight gain or gaining muscle or whatever body transformation you want to focus on, it's difficult because we set these goals and we have these expectations of hitting those goals. For me, I had this expectation. So, I developed binge eating disorder to deal with my dad's death. I was actually pretty muscular in high school because I took to weightlifting because it saved me from bullying. I was way stronger than I've ever been in high school. And then when he died, I just didn't care. And I was binge eating so badly and I gained over 100 pounds. Now that was really tough because I gained all this weight. And that weight became a representation of my father's death and this kind of way to measure my emotional suffering. And I got it in my mind that, one of the ways I could process his death was to lose all that weight. And of course, if you've watched my videos, I set out with ruthless intent and some really unhealthy ways. But the thing that was so devastating is I finally got to the same weight I was before his death, which was like around 165, 170 pounds. And I wasn't any happier. I wasn't any, more processed with my dad's death. And I had developed, all these eating disorders and all these other unhealthy things. I was literally poisoning my body. So I don't know. It's tough because I think having goals is admirable and it's worthwhile. And I'm not saying don't have goals, they're important. But sometimes we place all these expectations of how we're going to feel. But I don't know. We sometimes don't ever address the underlying quality of like why we feel that way in the first place. I have to get back to work. Much love. Hugs to everyone. You all are amazing. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you so much, Samantha, for popping in. My dad died last year, died a year and a half ago. The most difficult part of having memories is the best ones I have with him. Nobody in my family can relate to. Interesting. Jacob, one thing that has helped me with binge eating is that companies literally scientifically make food to make you binge eat. They put it in the perfect amount of fat, salt, and oil to make it a drug. Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to sort of transition into the thing that I'm struggling with his death right now. Because for the most part, like I used to be very angry. I used to be, I don't know, I was mad at, like my family was religious. My dad was deeply religious, and I'm not particularly religious, but at the time I was so angry at God because my dad believed, and I didn't understand it. I have a video about why I talked about why I blamed myself for my dad's death, but in summation, on the day he had a heart attack, I remember he always took us to school, and he had this tradition where to get out of the car you had to shake his hand and you had to give him a firm handshake because he was just a very old school kind of guy, and that was like his way of saying I love you. And every time we would try to give him a weak handshake, he would say like, "Oh, that's a wet fish. I didn't ask for a wet fish. I asked for a handshake." And, as we get older and we're angsty teens or we're angry, you play this game of like how weak of a handshake can you give before he's finally satisfied. So, that was just like this morning tradition. It was the one constant, right? Like no matter how angry my dad was, he would always do this handshake or like how late to work or anything like that. And then on the day of his heart attack, he was showing all these classic signs. But I'll never forget like that morning when he was dropping off to school, he turned around to do this traditional handshake, and it was the only time in my life my father gave me the wet fish. And so it's not just the fact that like he couldn't even squeeze my hand, he was in so much pain. But my father's not he was never the kind of man that would show weakness casually. And so for him to let weakness or pain come into this like sacred thing between us, in my gut was screaming something's wrong. But at the time I was angry at him. And I don't even remember why we were fighting about something stupid. And I was being an angsty teen, and like even though I wanted to tell him to go to the hospital and all these things, I didn't say anything because I was stubborn. My dad's stubborn, I'm stubborn. I'm still a very stubborn person. And so I got out of the car. I didn't even say I love you. I didn't tell him to go to the hospital. I didn't say I was worried about him. I just got out and put my headphones in and turned my back on my dad. And that was going to be the last time I ever saw him alive. And so for years, I blamed myself for my father's death because I didn't say anything and I didn't do anything. And that was really difficult because, part of the reason I binge ate was out of self-hate for this moment. And then when I was losing weight, I felt like I had to atone for that mistakes or make up for those mistakes. And I had to punish myself for fucking up as a son. Also, I'm his oldest child and oldest son. So I don't know, I just felt like a failure of a man. And that was really difficult. I was really depressed. I was really angry with myself. I blamed myself for so many things, and that took years to overcome. Um, let's see. What does processing or grieving a loss truly entail? Is it just a feel? Is it a feel it to heal it situation, or do we just eventually just passively let go? Marley, I don't know. I think also, hey Marley, how's it going? I honestly think you have to feel it. Every kind of trauma I've ever encountered, either in my life or other people's lives, like people have this tendency they want to shove these feelings in a dark closet and not deal with them. And we have this perception that like time should lessen that pain. Because like time does a lot of weird things to us, like it changes our impressions on a lot of things. But we have this belief, like, okay, I'm just gonna put it in a closet or a drawer or whatever metaphor you want to use. I'm just going to ignore it and it will deal with itself, or it will somehow lessen, or like time will wear it away. But in my experience, like time doesn't do that. Time doesn't make it any easier to deal with. And in fact, most of the time, especially with certain traumas, makes it worse. Makes it a lot worse because it builds and it festers and it turns into something else. And you may think you're not like trying to cope, or you may think it's not affecting your life, but um, often people are like subconsciously doing all these things to cope with their grief or loss or trauma or hardship or whatever it is, that is also negatively affecting their lives. So, like 3 years on, you like open that door expecting it to be done with, and it's like turned into this entirely different monster that's so much harder to deal with. So I don't know, for me at least, or like with my suicidal ideation, ironically, that's something that feels like, okay, like I can't feel that. I can't think about that. I can't interact with that. I need to numb or distract or shove that into the deepest, darkest box and not deal with it. But every time I tried to deny that I was suicidal or not deal with that I was suicidal, it just made my suicidal ideation worse, honestly. Let's see. What are some other comments we got going on in here? Indigo, hey, how's it going, Indigo? I emotionally did not feel anything about my father's death since he was an alcoholic. I felt like it was a weight off of my family. I was 12, and I didn't quite realize I loved him to an extent. Yeah, it's really difficult because, like, with me, like my father was flawed, but I still loved him, and I still thought he was a good man. So it's so much harder because when someone dies and you don't have a high opinion of them, or they're abusive, or they're not healthy, there's this part of you that's almost happy, I guess, or happy's maybe not the right word, or relieved. And that's a really difficult feeling to have. That feels pretty monstrous because you're like, How can I be happy that someone's gone? And so, at 12 or whatever age, that is a really weird feeling to process and cope with, because then you start to think to yourself like, well, is this a valid feeling, or like am I fucked up? Like why did I feel this way? And I don't know, death is strange because there's this perception that we should always feel sad about death. And I think, I don't know, for the most part that's true, but there's all these circumstances and exceptions where, like, there's complexity to it. It's not always black and white. Your story is heartbreaking, but it's absolutely not your fault. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I finally came to terms with the fact that I was a 16-year-old. My dad was stubborn. My mom had been telling him to go to the hospital. Like, my dad wasn't gonna listen to me. But the important thing is not so much, as an adult, or 11 years on, it's not so much that I blame myself for not doing anything, but it's like, it's the guilt I have, or the lesson I learned about choosing pettiness over your love for someone. Because this has been a theme in so many other my relationships, whether it be my ex-fiance, past girlfriends, past romantic partners, past friends. Like, there's sometimes these situations where we have this choice, right? Like, we we feel like we can either, choose the higher road, which is like appreciating that person and putting aside our pettiness or our squabbles or whatever it is, and appreciate that person, or we have the option to like indulge our pettiness or whatever we're angry about in that moment. And it's difficult because most of the time we have this assumption that we have future time promised with that person. Like with my dad, like, even when I thought he was having a heart attack, it didn't even occur to me he died. And it wasn't really until my mom told us he had died where, like, I even thought that was an option. I just thought he had a heart attack. So, with parents, we have this perception like, oh, they're always going to be in our lives, or like with friends or lovers or whatever. And so it's tough because, we have this false promise like, okay, like, even if I fuck up and choose the wrong choice now, like, I'll have plenty of time to fix that mistake later on in life. And, I think many of us have experiences where that's not true. Now, maybe people don't die on us, right? Or sometimes it just gets to a point where, like, friends are like, like, you just go separate ways, or relationships end, and you realize like, oh shit, like, I didn't have as much time as I thought. Let's Oh god, there's so many comments. I'm so behind. I think trusting your body is one of the most important things in recovery, and I know it's hard, definitely. Yeah, I feel grief is an emotion you have to sit with and get to know instead of ignoring it. Absolutely. Jade says, even if time heals, there's always a scar. Yeah, I think time can help, but like, I honestly truly believe, at least in my life, it takes like active processing and feeling. Because I think, like I said, time can also make things way worse. I've been processing for 4 years, and I go in and out of different grief stages. In my experience, grief isn't linear. Absolutely. So we have to face it, but what happens when it gets overwhelming? We can't stop living our lives to process it. No. So practically, do we leave space in our lives just to grieve? Thanks, Chris. I don't know. That's a tough question. One of the things I really diggle with. One of the things I really struggle with is, I don't know how to struggle and be successful. When I'm depressed or going through trauma. Well, okay. The only kind of trauma I know how to be successful in is life or death trauma. Like with my ex fiance, with her anorexia and suicidal ideation and suicide attempts, like, it was very life and death, and the stakes were so high. And in that environment, I was successful in school, and I did well, and I was so driven because the stakes pushed me to that level. But what do we do when those stakes aren't as high, right? Like when we're just processing trauma, or dealing with stuff, but no one's life is on that line. And even with suicidal ideation, that's not quite the same as with someone else's life being on the line. And so it's difficult for me. I always collapse in on myself, and my ability to do anything other than working on myself is so hampered. And it's tough because, that's so unpractical, right? Like for me, I've taken the last year and a half or 2 years, something like that, to just purely work through everything. And I've also started YouTube, but that means the rest of my life has been put on hold. And I'm lucky enough that I don't have children, that I live in a house my family owns, so I don't have to worry about rent. And then I had a bunch of money saved up when I was younger. So it's just tough because like sometimes like the situation necessitates that we don't feel those things. But then you're torn between like a rock and a hard place. Like do I process my emotions, or do I am I successful? Do I provide? Do I move forward in life? I don't know. I think one of my subscribers, Annabelle, has a great story where she just took 3 months out of her life and went to like a stay in institution to deal with their mental health. But that feels hard, and that feels like something we can't accept, especially in a society that dictates that you need to be productive, you need to be striving, you need to be accomplishing more and more. So to take time out of your life, any amount of time out of your life, to just sit in a purgatory of dealing with your emotions, like at least in a capitalistic sense, is just like the worst thing you could do. Dorothy, my mom spent her youth studying to impress her dad. She went to Princeton to follow in his footsteps. He died before he saw her graduate. She always says, "Live your life for yourself and nobody else." That's a great point, Dorothy. Oh, hey, it's Hudicus. What's up? I think I've lucked out in some ways. I never mourn a dead parent because mine abandoned me as a minor. Seeing how much people's parents mean to them, I'd hate to lose someone that close to me. I mean, Hudicus, like you suffer from a different problem, right? Like, my sadness at my dad's death is a product of the fact that I love my dad, and for the most part, he was a great man, and I wish I had that relationship. So the sadness is really a reflection or a shadow of something that's positive. And so for you, I imagine like, yeah, maybe you don't ever have to mourn the death of a parent, but you mourn never really having parents. And I can't imagine that's easy to deal with, and the way in which that's changed your life. How's your family celebrating your late passing? Teresa, great question. With COVID, like we normally get together and we go to like one of his favorite restaurants or just talk or something like that. But obviously with COVID, it's a little bit more difficult to meet up. One of my sisters is pregnant. One of my other sisters has two of my nieces. So, and we kind of live all over the place. So I think we might have like a Zoom call or something tonight. I'm not quite sure, honestly. I'm glad you came to terms with things, and not. I know it's not easy to deal with. Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I guess I'm lucky, because coping with my dad's death is why I started taking DMP and why I developed, atypical bulimia and why I almost died. So, when when I woke up in the hospital after nearly dying, I had to come to terms with the fact that like the way I was processing my dad's death wasn't healthy, and that I needed to do it in a different way. And so, I don't know, for me, I guess I'm kind of blessed because I had this huge dramatic event that completely changed my life. So, I don't know. I feel kind of lucky, I guess, in that sense. I mean, maybe not lucky that I almost died, but lucky that, I decided to take almost dying and then finally deal with my dad's death. Did your father ever visit you in your dreams, or were there any instances that made you feel like he was still around? Was it a positive or a negative reminder? Interesting question, Indigo. Shortly after his death, I had this really weird dream. I don't dream really, and it was sort of like my near-death experience, but not as vivid, or it still felt like a dream. It just felt like a weird dream. Where with my near-death experience, it felt like reality. But my dad came and picked me up in this van, the van we owned at the time, and he just drove around and he was talking to me about how he needed to go, and that was going to be a while before we saw each other again, and that he loved me. Truthfully, I don't remember much more about the dream other than it feeling like I woke up and like I had felt like I had went on a drive with my dad. Once again, like I'm always a skeptic, so I'm sure like you can make an argument that's just like a traumatized brain trying to cope. But I don't know. It always gave me some sense of comfort, because one of the things that really sucked was like I never got to say goodbye, or I love you or anything. Like my dad was, having a heart attack and something seemed wrong. I didn't know, and the next thing I know, he was gone. So we love and support you, Eastbound. Thank you so much, Teresa. Jacob says it really sucks to understand mortality so well when you're young. Understand that's okay to be going through the ringer. Definitely. Let's see. Lex with the heart. Thank you. Hey Lex, how's it going? Hey Jay, how's it going? What's your Instagram? So my personal Instagram is Christopher period East. And then you can find my Instagram actually in the description of this video. Whatever one you want. Jordan, luckily I haven't had any unexpected deaths, but I have had an abusive friendships who have been suicidal, self-harmed, and threatened suicide daily to me. And the constant stress drove me to almost dying. Yes, Jordan, I feel exactly the same way. With my ex-fiance, it was tough because the burden of, like her suicidal ideation and her anorexia were very real. That's one thing I really want to clarify is that I can't talk about why she felt those things. That's not my place to disclose, but they were real. And on some level it was hard because like like we had talked so much and I'd worked so hard to understand and have empathy. And so for me I was like, damn, I can't even blame you for the after the things you've gone through and the things you're dealing with and still dealing with. Like I can't necessarily say that you're doing the wrong thing. Now, I'm not saying I'm supporting, I wasn't trying to support her suicidal ideation. I wasn't saying like, okay, you can peace out now. But on some level, I just had a lot of compassion and empathy for it. But, because it was so real and because it felt so certain, like 8 months, 8 months every day, I was like, is she going to die in her sleep today? Is she going to take her life today? Like all these things. And that just wore at me. And it got to a point where it was costing me my soul. Also, she was extremely abusive in several ways. Some ways that I haven't talked about on YouTube, and I'm not really ready to talk about, truthfully. But so all of it was so complicated, and it got to a point where I was suicidal because I couldn't leave the relationship. I knew the second I left the relationship, that was a death sentence. But to remain in the relationship, like I was just like I couldn't bear like I was just like, well, if she does take her life or she does die from anorexia, like I'm just gonna kill myself anyway. And I'm sorry for this being triggering, but I'm just trying to be honest. So it got to a point where like it was literally killing me to love her, and it was very overwhelming. Did YouTube and your collab with Chubby Emu give you any relief? Um, yes. In the sense that one of the great things about my YouTube channel and why I started it was I've gone through a lot of interesting things in my life, and I've struggled a lot and I've made a lot of mistakes. I like to joke that I don't really have answers. I just have mistakes you can learn from. And so, my most popular video is about my overdose, and my collab with Chubby Emu is also about my overdose. And so, the whole purpose of my channel is like, how do I take these awful things I've been through and I struggle with and transform that into something that might help others? So, in some extent, me talking about my dad's death and finding meaning and trying to help people avoid the mistakes I made, um, I don't know. It's been this like silver lining or creating good out of everything. C Congrats, Sister Bound? Interesting. I don't get the reference. Having it being your fiance would just be double of that stress. I don't know how you did it. Yeah, I don't really know how I did it either. I loved her. I really loved her, and I saw so much potential in her, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And also, she was there for me when I overdosed. When I almost died, it was our 1 month anniversary of dating. So like literally to the day that I was closest to death was supposed to be our 1 month, and she's in the hospital meeting my family for the first time, while the doctors are like, "Yeah, he's probably gonna die." And even though my ex did go on to become this kind of toxic and abusive person, in the beginning she was absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, the things she was going through kind of, I don't know, twisted her and transformed her. But she had been there when I thought I was paralyzed and I had to relearn how to walk, and they told me I might have brain damage. And she never wavered, and she listened to me break down for weeks, crying because the experience was so overwhelming. So I don't know. I kind of felt entitled to being there for her as well. The fact that you went through a huge dramatic event makes it more impressive to me that you managed to come to terms with things. Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess that is a good point. I think with huge dramatic events, it kind of has this black or white kind of thing. Like you can't go through something dramatic and just remain in the middle. You either have to spiral way worse or spiral way better. And I think that's sometimes why we can catch ourselves seeking dramatic things because we're kind of looking for that catalyst. But I guess I was just lucky in the fact that at least at that time, my dramatic event pushed me forward. Hey, what's up, Slicer Shakira? Another one of my Patreons who roasts me all the time. Do you manually have to change the sub count in the back? No, it updates off my phone, which is really dope. Sorry for these questions. I've never had anyone to relate with who's lost a parent at a young age, but do you ever fear the loss of your mother? Definitely, all the time. One of the things that sucks is, like I said earlier, I was so consumed with dealing with the loss of my father that sort of forgot I had a mom. And also, to be fair, like my relationship with my mom was really toxic when I was younger. But I don't know. In the last few years, I was after I had gone through a bunch of stuff with my ex, I was like, you know what, like I don't know, like I want a relationship with my mom, and I set out to do that. It was really hard and took a lot of time, but worthwhile. So yeah, I do fear the loss of my mom. Being an orphan would be really hard. Things I sometimes do is write letters to my father, like I check in how I'm doing, and I sort of burn them, like releasing it to the universe. That sometimes help. Yeah, I have this spoken word about my dad that I've been working on that means a lot to me. One day I'll finish that and share that, but that helps as well. Good night. See ya. Thank you so much for dropping in, Lay. Rosalind just popping in to say hi. I'm gonna be going to bed soon, but wanted to show my face. It's Rosalind's birthday. Rosalind is, I would call, one of my YouTube friends now, also Patreon. I interviewed her. Our interview was a little weird, and we're gonna have to reshoot it eventually. But Rosalind's amazing. Rosalind might be in a live stream on Friday. Exciting. Gotta go. See ya on Anya. I'm gonna say Anya. Thank you so much for popping in and interacting with me. I appreciate it. Uh, Akashin. I'm gonna go Akashin. I'm gonna mess that up. How do you bring positivity into your life? Because being in the same sad atmosphere isn't going to improve you, right? Uh, Definitely. How do I bring positivity in my life? I don't know. I have some really amazing friends. One friend who's gone through a lot and is trying her best, and then another friend who's striving. So I surround myself with really amazing people that I admire and look up to. With YouTube, I try my best to like, how do we make the most out of things? I think for me, one of the core philosophies I've had that has moved me forward in life is like trying to find the gift of things. Like for me, trauma is tough, but on the same level, it's been a gift. Like some of the most beautiful things about me as a man and as a person has come from my hardship. So I think to some extent, I have this philosophy of like trying to find the good in everything, even if you have to make that good yourself. Let's see. Yeah, spoken word would be amazing. Happy birthday, Rosalind. Aw. One thing I like to think of is the fact that no one ever dies because their spirit lives on within people that love them, etc. Yeah, that's a really powerful way to look at it. Happy birthday. Aw. Random generic name. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Glad to be here. Glad to have you here, honestly. David, hi. Hey David, how's it going? Really liking the content. A little unrelated question, but something I really struggle with. What's your opinion on improving self-respect and confidence? So I've struggled with confidence like all my life. I was bullied when I was younger. I was a very rather unattractive. I was a very ugly duckling growing up. I've been cheated on. I've been really overweight. I've lost a lot of weight. Like, I've hated myself. I still sort of struggle with self-hate. So it's tough because, like if you don't like yourself, or other people in your life have made it clear that they don't think you're likable, that's a really tough thing to deal with. Other issues I have is like, in the Midwest, my form of masculinity, like I talk about this a fair amount, but very much in touch with my feminine side, very much in touch with my masculine side. That's not seen as, I don't know, like a valid form of masculinity where I live in the US. So that's tough. And I've tried a lot to change myself. I have this video on my channel that goes way better into this. It's called like the cup of tea mindset. It's sort of talking about dating, but I think it also applies just in general. This stupid expression that gives me a lot of power in my life is, everyone's heard the expression like "not my cup of tea." And "not my cup of tea" is like basically saying like, hey, like I'm not saying this thing doesn't have value, but I just don't like it, and that's fine. So I like that expression, but what I did is, I know this is cheesy as fuck, but it really does mean a lot to me, is I say, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm still one hell of a cup of tea. Because at the end of the day, the thing I find is that with my personality and who I am, when I'm the most authentic to who I am, yes, it's true that there will be people, especially like in the terms of dating, or whatever, they'll get to know me and the type of man that I am, and women will straight up be like, I don't like the type of dude you are at all. And that sucks. But on the other end, like the more I've leaned into myself, yes, the more rejection by like dating or just friends I get. But I also the more acceptance. Because that's the thing that sucks is when you try to dilute yourself, right? Or make yourself someone you're not, you're like watering yourself down. And that makes sense to some level because like you're trying to water down the things that are like strongly elicit negative reactions. And the stupid metaphor that I use is that like, yeah, sure, like at some point, like water, you'll be palatable to everyone, right? Like everyone will drink water to some extent. But that's like no one's favorite drink, right? Like no one's like, yeah, like, water is my favorite thing possible. Maybe some people, but I don't know. The thing I found power in is that like it's okay that some people strongly don't like me, especially as a content creator. Like it's okay that some people don't like my ideas. It's okay that some people think I'm full of shit or women don't find me attractive because that's not why does that have to be a bad thing? And on the inverse side, not to overly talk about dating, but I've met plenty of friends or women that are attractive or interesting or people that are interesting, and I'm just like, "Hey, I just don't vibe with you," or like, "You're not my preference," or like, "We don't have a lot in common." That doesn't mean they're not equally interesting and great people. It just means like I don't vibe with them. And so it's funny because I think sometimes we're so worried about the way in which others reject us that we kind of forget that we do a lot of rejecting ourselves. And it's not bad rejecting. We're just like we're filtering people, and it's okay to be filtered. So I guess that's how I have confidence is that my confidence isn't born that I think I'm an amazing person or an amazing man or perfect or anything like that, but more so that I'm acutely aware of my flaws and I'm acutely aware of the things people don't like about me. And, some things I try to work on and other things I just accept as a part of who I am. Let's see. Oh God, I'm so behind. Strings and pedal. I feel like I'm always prepared, expecting for somebody important in my life to die again. Like it's been a few years, we're due another one. Yeah, so one of the really difficult things about my dad's death, other than him dying, which gets into why his death is still really hard for me, is, you know, when you experience death, it becomes so real, right? Like we know about death, we have a general conception of it, but for the most part, it's pretty abstracted, right? Like until you feel what it's like when someone really close to you dies and someone you love, like it's hard to imagine it. Like you can try and you can have a sense why that would suck and why it would be sad, but there's all these little details. Like for instance, one of the most difficult things for me is my dad had a very specific body type and way he would dress, and every once in a while there will be someone about his age dressed the exact same way as him with the same body type and the same, worn out hat. And for a second, my mind will be like, oh, that's my dad, or I'll be like, my dad. And then for the briefest second, I think to myself, I have this hope that that person will turn around and it's my dad. But of course, it never is because that person's gone. So it's those little details like that, those little moments in life that takes death from this abstracted thing to this real thing. So I went through this experience. Death became this real and terrifying and destructive thing in my life. And so when I was with my ex-fiance and her death was looming, it made it so much harder, because I think sometimes with romantic partners and you don't know what death's like, it can be romantic in this weird way. You're like fighting against death. But the entire time with my ex, like I knew I if she had died, like if she passed, there were going to be these moments where I saw someone with similar hair and similar build, and I was like, oh, there's the love of my life. She's still alive, and then have that crushing reality, like no, like she's dead, and so how bad it was going to hurt, or how much I was going to miss her, or all these details that you learn when you go through death. So one of the most difficult things was like that whole time I was going through that with my ex, it made every like when someone's suicidal or when someone has a life-threatening eating disorder, it's already dramatic, but it was this extra like pain of it all. And with my dad, I had fucked up and I didn't do enough. I didn't say enough. I didn't try hard enough. I just turned my back on my dad. And with my ex, I was so determined to not make those mistakes again. And on one end, that was great because I tried so hard and I don't have as far as like regrets go, I don't regret how much I tried. I do regret some of my actions and I regret some of the things I said and I didn't said some awful things. But I can't look back on that relationship and think to myself I didn't try as hard as I could to save her life. And so I don't know. That's one of the other ways that's been difficult is my dad's death set me careening on this life path. Like the reason I overdosed is tied to, or I guess the reason I overdosed is tied to my dad's death because it's tied to my weight gain, which is tied to his death. And the reason I was willing to stay in an abusive relationship for so long was this idea of like trying to not make the same mistakes as I did when my dad was having a heart attack. So it's tough because, if I had to link, the one of the other reasons I'm live streaming today is because 11 years ago today, um, I could reasonably say is the start of the path that would lead to everything that I've been through. I'm not saying everything is predetermined. I still had a lot of choice and agency on how I got here. But when I look back on my life and I look back on why I made some of the choices that I did or why I ended up in the situations that I did, it all stems from this day, 11 years ago. So all the pain, all the death, all you know, the trauma and the hardship, it's all tied to this one moment and me not handling it well and me just continually making poor choices and me not understanding or me not having people to lean on. So one of the other reasons I'm really sad about this day is because I'm so aware of why it led to everything else that I've been through. They're so tied together. Let's see. Do I play any instruments? I played the clarinet when I was in high school. I don't currently play any instruments. I'm not particularly musically gifted. Off topic, but do you have any nicknames? Just some people call like the names I go by are like Chris, Christopher, and East. The only nickname I had was in football, and they called me East the Beast. But please do not call me that. That is really cringy. Did you always have an interest in literature and poetry, or did you discover that as a way of channeling your emotions later on in your life? Henry, great question. I'm gonna read some more comments, but I'll jump back to that. Valerie, yes, you are one hell of a cup of tea. That was powerful. I love that. Thank you so much, Shakira. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm still one hell of a cup of tea. I'm stealing this. Yeah, it's such a great way because the reason I like that saying is because you're accepting rejection, right? Like I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Like I'm going to get rejected and that's fine. That's the expectation. Like the thing I find in life is you want to elicit strong reactions. Like you want people to either strongly like you or strongly dislike you. Now, I'm not saying be an asshole, right? Like if there are some times where people strongly dislike you for very valid reasons. Like if you are rude or an ass or, I don't know, racist or any of these awful things, like, that's not something to be proud of. Like, you should work on those things. But when it comes down to like character traits, like what I've been talking about with my femininity and my masculinity, like that's not something I should work on. Like I'm very confident about that. That's not a bad thing. Like I need to accept that about myself. I can't change that. So, um, but you're also validating that like yes, I will be rejected, but that doesn't mean I'm any less valid of a person. Like I still have value. I still am someone's favorite cup of tea out there, whether that be friendship or otherwise. Excuse me, water is my favorite type of drink. It's so tasty. Don't fight me on this. Okay, okay. You and Nicole would get along. Nicole's favorite drink is water. I'm from India. You really inspire me a lot. Just stay light. Good that you spoke out stuff open to us. Have a great day, dude. I feel lucky I got an opportunity to talk to you. Peace, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really want to advocate for people having the courage to open up about their own stories because there isn't shame in it, right? Like we're allowed to struggle. We're allowed to own those things. We shouldn't be judged because we're struggling. Let's see, Ashley, what's up? How's it going? What do you think about going vegan? I mean, if you can make it work, go for it. I understand there's a lot of ethical concerns about it, obviously for animal abuse and animal treatment. Um, with my eating disorder and my binge eating, like going vegan and placing restrictions on myself is a lot like disordered eating and the ways in which I've restricted food. So I don't know if I could go vegan without it feeling disordered. But if other people are vegan, I support that. As long as you're not the vegan teacher, like I'm all for you. What was a thing your father would do or say that you still carry with you to this day? It can be anything. Also, I believe if your father were here today, he'd be very proud of you. Thank you, Indigo. I hope he would be. I'm not entirely sure. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. So I want to tell a story. I want to tell you my favorite story of my dad. My favorite story of my dad is he he was teaching me how to drive, and my dad was very rough around the edges, and he just like was not into coddling you, and very old school. So he was teaching me how to drive. I've never really driven a car before. It was like the second time I'd ever gotten behind the wheel. And where I live in Indiana, I live in a big city, but the second you drive like 10 minutes out west or what in any direction, you hit cornfields. So he takes me out to these like back country roads and cornfields, and he has me drive. And we just drive for a half an hour. And he's like, yeah, turn left here, turn right here. So we're driving, we're taking these random turns, we're just going along our way. And then like 30, 45 minutes into this, he says, okay, pull over to the side of the road. I'm like, okay, whatever. I pull over to the side of the road. And my dad had these sermons. Like I said, my dad was very religious and he was very old school. He had this a Walkman. Some of you won't know what that is, but it had those like cassette players. He pulls out this Walkman and these old busted pair of headphones. He throws them on, and before he throws them on, he looks at me. He's like, "I hope you were paying attention to the directions we took to get us home." And he puts these fucking headphones on and falls asleep while I'm freaking out in the driver's seat. It's the second time I've ever driven. I have no idea where the fuck I am. Out in the middle of the cornfields in these country roads, and I'm like yelling at my dad, and I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do this." And he ignored me. Just straight. The man went to sleep and started snoring. And so I tried to get us back home for like literally an hour. Didn't know my head from my ass. I could not get back to my hometown. My dad randomly wakes up, looks at the time, and he's like, dinner's probably going to be ready soon. We should get back. And he has me pull over, gets in the driver's seat, and just like, I don't know, the man's sense of direction was immaculate. Gets us home within like 35 minutes. And it was such an important lesson because it's at the time it was awful, but it's one of my favorite stories because my dad literally did that to me. And ever since then, I've always been very acutely aware of like the general direction I'm headed in. And I'm pretty good at like once I've gone somewhere once or twice, I can get back there again. So easily my favorite memory of my dad because it's such a him story and it's so ridiculous and unlike a lot of other people's experiences with driving. Athena, hey, what's up? Thank you so much. Thank you for being so open when it comes to mental health. In today's society, it's hard for a man to share what they're going through due to stigma. Also, you are, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think men struggle with it a lot because, like I've been saying, like the second you're open or vulnerable or any of these things, I don't know, you're stigmatized as being effeminate, and calling someone effeminate is bad because you're also insulting women. But I don't know. I think a lot of the issues men struggle with, especially with violence and anger, is because of their inability to feel their emotions and deal with them. So I don't know. I think for me, masculinity is equal parts about being in touch with the way you feel and being able to express that. For me, that's like what makes someone alpha. Like the most alpha dudes I know are like the dudes who are like fully willing to accept and express their emotions. Hey AC, how's it going? Funny story. I was revising my exams and DMP came up. I was reminded of your story and how much you've gone through. Keep going, man. Love the content. Thank you so much, AC. David, definitely checking out the cup of tea video. Yeah, I'd recommend it. Oh, I'm so behind. Sarah, hey Sarah, how's it going? Popping in to support and also congrats, almost 10K. I know, I'm so excited. I'm probably gonna try to live stream that. It's so weird to me that I'm almost at 10K. But also, as a young person who lost their father, I feel your pain. Thank you for discussing this hard topic. I'm so sorry to hear for your loss. And in general, everyone that's listening, I know some people just listen and don't comment. Whatever your loss is, parent, friend, significant other, grandparent, relative, I just want you to know that, like, especially on this day, like, I feel your pain. And although our circumstances are different, I don't know. I'm sorry you've experienced loss, and I hope you're dealing with it in a way that it's healthy. Okay, dude, and will not ever call you East the Beast. I mean, he can. I just don't go by that. I think my Call of Duty gamer tag is East the Beast, as cringy as that is. Mastery, thank you so much. I know I'm really excited about not having a trash mic. See through all of it, lol. Not gonna lie, finding your YouTube account has created some sort of change in me for me subconsciously. Your honesty has made me feel a little less alone. Thank you for your work with this channel and yourself. That means a lot. I don't know, hearing that is why I started the channel. I think the way I try to give advice is not directly because I don't understand the circumstances of every possible viewer that watches, right? Even people have gone through similar trauma. The details are so different. So I find the best way to help people is be this point of introspection and self-reflection. With my friends, right? Like even people I do know in my life, like if I try to come directly at them and be like, "This is what's wrong. This is what you need to do," that almost never goes well. What I find works really well is sitting down and being brutally honest about your mistakes and the things you're dealing with and how you're trying to process them. And by having that vulnerability and that honesty, it allows the person listening to let their own guards down with themselves and be like, okay, this person has the courage to be honest and admit these things. Like maybe I can find that courage in myself, especially, with YouTube, it's so disconnected. Like you're having this experience by yourself in your house or wherever. And it really allows you to like reflect on my things and decide for yourself whether you relate or don't relate. And it's interesting because sometimes the ways in which we don't relate is almost as important as the ways we do relate. Indigo, well, LML. Thanks, Dad. Tough love. Yeah, my dad was definitely tough love, but also kind of humorous and funny. Sounds like a Midwestern dad, definitely. Carrie, how's it going? I live in Indiana too, so I definitely know what you mean. Cornfields, yeah. Going back to Henry's question. So why did I get into poetry? So I'm not, I've never been a writer. I've never studied poetry or anything like that. I went to school for engineering and then computer science. So the reason I got into poetry is actually this really sweet story. So like I said, my ex went through a lot of horrible things that I can't talk about. And when we were first dating, she was still in a lot of denial or not in a place where she could talk about it or even admit to the things that had happened or that she was suffering with, whether that was eating disorder or whatever. And for her, it was very triggering to try to talk about these things. And a lot of our talking was like through loose metaphors and implications. And I don't know, it was very difficult. But one of the most beautiful things we had between each other is that she was really into spoken word. So what she would do is she would sit me down. There's this spoken word channel on YouTube called Button Poetry, a lot of amazing artists there. And there'd be, for instance, like anorexia or eating disorders. She would find a poet or a poem that of this person talking about their experiences. And with spoken word, it's such a powerful piece because you get to see the person's face, body language, hear their voice, hear the way they deliver it. For me, as someone who's a bit of an empath or like is good at reading people, it was such a powerful medium to try to understand experiences. And these spoken word artists had poured all this time and effort and skill into communicating their experiences in this form of art. So my ex would sit me down and show me this video and says like, I can't tell you this, but this is how I feel. And for the longest time, the way we would communicate is, or the way she would try to share these experiences with me or how they affected her, what, because she couldn't talk about it herself. And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now can relate to that. There are things that you're going through that you can't really talk to people because it's so triggering to sit there and claim it. It's so overwhelming. You want to be in denial or like you just don't have words or vocabulary for it yet. So the spoken word artists, like she would sit down and show me them, and through them, I got to understand and know and have a deeper compassion and love for my partner because of their work. And I fell in love with spoken word because of that, because of how important it was for us to understand each other and for her to communicate the things she didn't have words for yet. I didn't start writing poetry until a couple months after my engagement ended because I was so overwhelmed and I was dealing with so many things. and I just didn't have a space for it. I didn't have any friends at the time. I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I couldn't talk about my emotions. I could definitely not do what I do now back then. And so I started writing poetry because poetry, at least for me, you have to spend all this time finding like what are the most important parts of this particular memory or experience, and you have to boil it down and you have to cut out all the extra stuff. And so you it forces you to process that trauma, and it forces you to think about it, and it forces you to say like, how do I how do I talk about this, or what are the most important things? And one of the I mean, this is one of my earliest philosophies when it comes to my trauma and why I started with spoken word, but how I approach my YouTube content is I have this saying: if I'm going to talk about ugly things, then I will do so beautifully. And so for me, poetry was this way of finding beauty while talking about ugly and awful things. So yeah, I've only been writing poetry for maybe 2 years, but it's always been a way of coping for me. Hoodicus, you're not even effeminate, you're just a normal guy. Yeah, I mean, I just think I'm normal. I don't really know. Um, Everyone's definition of effeminate is super different. I would say I'm not like a dude bro though. I'm definitely not very dude bro at all. Roseanne, how's it going? Thank you so, dude. Roseanne is a champ. She's Venmoed me several times. I'm not worthy. I appreciate it so much. I just want to acknowledge Roseanne for being so amazing and being also part of the reason why I was able to afford this mic. So shout out to Roseanne. Hey East, I love that story about your dad. I still have a scary bad sense of direction. Could have used that tough love, definitely. Kung Fu Kennedy, I've got the brains, I've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. Yeah, man, make lots of money. Go for it. Get on that grind. Get your bag. What does Eastbound mean? So my channel intro talks about it. You can watch that video, but in short, so I came to this realization that the name Chris came to represent someone who is broken, traumatized, and depressed and suicidal. So, and Chris was also, who I identified as when I did really horrific things in my last relationship and went through horrific things. So I came to this kind of conclusion that like everything I had been through was so drastic that I sort of needed to kill off Chris, right? And which is part of the reason why I'm suicidal, because with suicidal ideation, that's a more literal meaning. But as someone who still wants to live, I was like, well, maybe we can figuratively kill Chris. So maybe I can figuratively kill the person that I am and develop a new identity. And so names are so important, right? Like that's what we attach. It's like the quickest thing we can attach our identity to. So I was like, okay. And I'm also a big fan of David Goggins. I have another video about why identity change is important. But so David Goggins goes by Goggins, which is his last name. And so for me, I don't know, I'm a sucker for wordplay and double entendres and puns. So I've always loved my last name. But when I was searching for like a new name, like I don't want to go by a completely different name. At first, I just went by my full name. So right now, like I introduce myself as Christopher or East. You can call me Chris. That's fine with me. I just don't go by Chris anymore personally. But so East is the name of this identity of the man I want to be and the man I'm working towards. And for me, I don't know. Like I said, sucker for double entendres. It works really well because I'm bound for this new conception of me, which is East, and also East is a direction. And so like this whole purpose of my life of becoming a new man and sharing the experience and trying to help other people's has given me direction. So, that's the other meaning. It's a literal direction. So, being eastbound has given me direction, purpose, and meaning in my life. And so, that's reflected in my channel name. And I think all of us have these own individual identities that we're bound to or moving towards, and we need help. Whether that's books or friends or YouTubers or what relationships. Like I think we all are striving to be better people or change our identities for the better. Oh God. Um I'm Mata. I think it's Mata. Why does this feel personal? August ago, my mother died from COVID. I'm so sorry to hear that you lost your mother to COVID, especially so soon. I can't imagine what that's like. Uh, uh, I imagine it feels just so unfair. With a heart attack, it felt rather unfair, but with COVID, there's this whole other element of like, you know, a pandemic is just so new and unexpected. And, our country, I don't know what country you live in, but a lot of countries, especially the US, have not handled it well and put a lot of people at risk. And there's a lot of citizens that don't care about other people and potentially risk infecting other people. So I imagine with COVID, that's especially difficult because it's so unexpected and it's this whole worldwide event. And I don't know. I can't imagine that. I'm truly sorry for your loss. And I'm hoping you're dealing with it in the best way that you can. He said he thinks his God tag is that. He doesn't think it is. You know it is. Okay, well, yeah, I know it is. Don't put me on blast like that. Layla, hi there, Christopher. Hi, friends. Hey, Layla, how's it going? Nice to see you again. Was it easier? Indigo says, was it easier to admit and be vulnerable to yourself with depression, or did you need help, like another person walk with you and vent through your bottled up emotions? I mean, I started going to therapy, and so before therapy, like I definitely, I don't know, in romantic senses, or like really close, intimate friendships, I could talk about being vulnerable, but doing the YouTube thing or social media or being open about it, nah, I was not good at that at all. But I don't know, through my efforts through therapy and self development, I just got to a point where I don't know, it's easy. I don't think it's ever easy. Like, some of my videos really are taxing to produce and create and put out there. It's taxing to get criticism or I don't know, people disagreeing with me, but um, I don't know, it's doable now, and I think it just took a lot of time sitting with those feelings. Also with vulnerability, like I don't know, I think it's funny because um, like me, like whether I talked about it on YouTube or not doesn't change the fact that those are real things. And I try to be as ethical and honest and responsible as I can. So I think a lot of the criticism that I get about being vulnerable is, I don't know, ultimately doesn't really hit home with me because I take so much time to do it responsibly. Side note, your mic sounds amazing. Happy for you. Thank you so much, Layla. I'm gonna go with divine. What you've been through is what made you the person you are today. What's going to help others? Seeing tests as gift changes how you take hardship and makes it into an opportunity for growth. Absolutely agree. It's ironic because I have several different personal philosophies. One is called the gift of trauma, and the other one's called the burden of trauma. I believe being traumatized shatters you and ironically gives you this opportunity to become a worse person or a better person. And so that's sort of the burden of trauma, right? The burden of trauma is that all of a sudden you've been thrown into chaos, often in ways that are unfair and damaging and come with all these other consequences. And you're given this burden that like if you don't handle that well or you cope in really awful ways or you allow yourself to become jaded or twisted, then you become a far worse person. But equally there's this idea of kintsugi, which is this Japanese art form of repairing broken pottery with gold, and I have a spoken word about it. But with trauma, you're broken, and with enough time, effort, and intention, you can repair yourself with gold. And I would argue, at least for me in my life, um, when I do get to that state of being repaired, I will be a far more valuable person and far more beautiful person than I ever could have been had I never gone through trauma in the first place. So I wouldn't say I'm thankful for going through hardships, but on the other end, I if you gave me a pill right now to go back to those days and never go through what I went through, I think I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say I wouldn't take it, but I also don't know if I would take it at this point. Because I would really miss the person that I'm slowly becoming. I actually kind of like him, but don't. Oh, that was awkward to admit too. Let's see. Indigo says there were sometimes I for sure was in denial about my mental health and by mental illness, but got into poetry the same way your ex did shortly after my father's passing. Writing definitely makes me feel free and not alone. Definitely love that. Jordan says I've spent a lot of time reflecting on my mental health in detail. Honestly, spoken word sounds like something that would be great to get emotions out there without just rambling. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't like structure. So my spoken word is prose. Like I don't rhyme. I don't really use formal stanzas, but at least with spoken word, you're bound to this shorter format, and you're bound to these like stylistic choices. Where with poetry, it's very visual. So the reason I like that is like sometimes with short story writing, you're writing in this way that's descriptive, but with spoken word, it's this more visual style of writing, and this writing that's meant to emote. But to make others emote and feel things, you have to explore why you feel things and how to capture that. So I don't know. I love writing. And also why so many people find my videos to be like kind of poetic in nature is because I got my start writing poetry. And then so some of that bleeds over into my script writing. Hoodicus, find activities that make you feel love for yourself and focus on them and avoid people and things that take away from it. Absolutely. Um, I lost my dad, not to COVID, heart attack 7 months ago, and it's really hard not to picture him in the hospital bed and in all that trauma right now. Damn. But eventually, I hope we'll be able to look back on them as they were before their illness. Hope you're going to be okay. Definitely. Strings and Pedals says, "Holy shit, was that a hint of self love and appreciation? Gross. Yes, very gross. I do not like complimenting myself. Much rather say I'm an awful person. Rhyme doesn't matter in spoken word, just rhythm. Yeah, definitely. And emotion, mastery. Is it is good to not bottle it up. Even then, being stuck in a state of unfeeling from unhealthy emotional health doesn't mean one has to lose himself. Some of us are trying to defrost. That's a good way of putting it. I think I have a tendency to be too extreme in black and white. So it's like either I'm completely numbing and distracting, or I'm like avidly working on things. I would probably argue, or maybe like more of a middle ground approach. But I don't know. Middle ground approaches are hard in of themselves. You should read Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. Such an amazing poem. All right, right on. Yeah, I'll pull that up in another tab. Hey, David, thank you so much. Austria. There are a lot of Austrians that follow me. I find it fascinating. East or West? East is the best. You actually brought a new meaning to this phrase. Try using it. Yeah, it's kind of ironic because like I literally my title on my channel is Eastbound, but like I want to move out west in the US so bad. Um I don't really like the East Coast of the United States personally. Nothing against it. I just prefer mountains. Haiku also delivers strong emotions and impressions with such small amount of words. Yeah, Henry, it's interesting. I'm a wordy fuck. If you've ever watched my videos, you know I'm very wordy. And so haiku is really difficult for me because one thing I struggle with and I'm very open about is struggling with conciseness. And I tend to use a lot of syllables and a lot of words, maybe a little too many. And so bounding myself to a haiku is so challenging for me. But people that are good at haikus, all the more power to them. Ooh, you live. How much have I missed? Not too much. How's it going in the space between? You wordy? No way. I know, right? I can talk so much, unfortunately. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like I said earlier, just the thing I'm struggling with today is that I miss my dad. I'm more I don't know, it's weird because I more miss the possibility of that relationship, less so him. Um well, no. I do miss him, but I think the things that I'm really sorrowful about is like not getting to know him and not having him in my life and not having that support and wondering how he would feel about me now and what he would be doing with his life. So that's a part of what makes today hard. The other thing, like I said, that makes today hard is that I am struggling with all this weight I've gained because of binge eating, and my binge eating disorder started with my dad, no longer because of my dad. My dad's death more to do with, things I've gone through recently, but so I don't know. I feel sort of it sucks because on large part I feel like I've dealt with his passing, but here I am in the throes of struggling with my disordered eating and my binge eating and body dysmorphia, which is linked back to his death. And so like I don't know, that's one of the things that sucks about trauma is when you're still even 11 years later still dealing with things that were directly caused by an event. I don't know, I don't know, you feel trapped with that, or you feel stuck, or you feel like there's still these things you need to address, and that can be a bit overwhelming. Um, I'm just filling in the blank space when no one talks. Roseanne, July 3rd will be 12 years since I lost my dad. Changed me forever. It feels like yesterday, still, especially on the anniversary. But now I have a baby named Deathroom. Oh, that's great. I was talking to Nicole about this. My dad's name was Ron or Ronald. I love my dad. I was just like, I don't know if I can name my son Ron. It's like a good adult name, but maybe not like such a great kid name. Maybe a middle name or something like that. I love that. Henry says, I love the way you're so eloquently spoken and how you manage to deliver your messages in such an intimate way. Thank you so much. I put a lot of effort into it, so that means a lot. Oh, my knickers, not having an adult relationship with my dad is hard to think about. Yeah, no, I hope I don't cause you to spiral too much with that. But yeah, that's definitely the things I struggle with the most. First trip to the AZ mountains was mind blowing and expanding. Yeah, I remember when I saw the Rockies for the first time. Well, it's funny. I grew up in the Midwest, and I have traveled with my family, but it's been mostly on the East Coast. And I had this toxic relationship when I was younger, and we flew to Seattle or drove to Seattle. And so in Seattle, there's this huge mountain called Mount Rainier, and it's a standalone mountain. And it's absolutely massive, and you can see it from everywhere. And I remember we were going into a Walmart, and I was in the parking lot. I just stopped, and I was like staring at an alien or something. Because for this Midwestern Indiana Hoosier farm boy, or I'm not a farmer, but you know what I mean. The fact that there was a mountain in the background of a Walmart, like my mind couldn't process it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why isn't everyone else just staring at that mountain? And of course, like to them, it's normalized that there's a giant mountain, but yeah, I've always, the stupid cringy dating question of like beaches or mountains. I've always been more of a mountain kind of guy. So I want to go live in like Denver or something like that, anywhere near the Rockies. Deaths and breakups both hold grief for me because of the possibility of what it could have been, if that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, when a relationship ends or someone dies, like yeah, that's it, right? Like all the mistakes and regrets and things you thought you could have apologized for or made better, you never get that opportunity. The closure or the insight or the information that person carries with them, you don't get that insight, you don't get that opportunity. One of the things that was really difficult for me to let go of is my ex and I. We were engaged. I wanted to get married to her. I loved her a lot, and we talked a lot about having a kid together. And I've never really wanted kids, but they always say this thing like you'll want a kid when you meet the right person, and I think that's true to some extent. And so, during the hardest parts, we always fantasized about what the future would be like. And the important part was this kid that we named Elliot or something like this idea of a daughter. And when that relationship ended, this, fantasy child that we not even close to conceiving, just a figment of our imaginations, like that was weirdly hard to give up and realize like, oh, that dream or that fantasy or that desire will never come to fruition. So I don't know, death and end of friendships are just hard, especially when death is permanent and unrelenting, and you have no access. But often relationships end in this way that's like a living death. Like with my ex, like I don't think we'll ever talk again, and not because we're angry or hate each other, but just for our own respective mental healths. So like certain things I need closure on or information on, I'll never get that, and I have to be just okay with that. Yeah, no, Shakira's definitely the life of the party in my live chats. She's here to keep it spiced up and roast me. In general, I like being roasted, so if you ever want to like poke fun at me, go for it. I think it's hilarious. Let's see. Yeah, what ifs fuck me up, definitely. Indigo, one of my favorite poems is English Evening by Charlotte Bronte. All right, I gotta go. Thank you for sharing something most, if not something, can relate to. It was healing to listen to and talk about. Thank you so much, Indigo. Have a good night, good day. Roseanne says middle name. Yeah, middle name. Definitely middle. Like it'll be. I don't know what the first name, but it will be like Ronald East. Yeah. My sister lives in Colorado. I visited once and loved it. Sorry about that. I'm visiting again at the end of the summer. Low key want to move there. Definitely. Yeah. Nicole's moving to Denver. So I'm gonna probably force her to put up with me and let me move out there eventually. You can call your future son Ronnie as a kid. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Ronnie's not bad. But then I just think of Jersey Shore. Also, hey, what's up, Nadia? At 4:30. How's it going? Yeah, I just think of like Ronnie in the situation, and then the memes about Jersey Shore. The name Ron would constantly remind me of Ron Swanson. Yeah, no, Ron Swanson wouldn't be bad. Or Ron Burgundy. I would think of Ron Burgundy from Anchorman. I love Anchorman. See, for all of you that want to know one of my favorite movies, The Anchorman's one of them. Strings and Pedal. The Alps are east if of Indiana. Technically, that is a fair point. I have always kind of wanted to move to Europe. I did middle name just so it wasn't weird. All right, nice. Yes, I was thinking of all the Anchorman jokes. Did YouTube get you that pillow behind you? No, my best friend Nicole got it for me. It was super sweet. I would never get that for myself because I like it. I would feel pretentious, but she's been super supportive of me behind the scenes, along with my other best friend Daniel, and she got it from Etsy to celebrate hitting 100 subs. And when I tell you, I was an emotional wreck when she got it for me. I don't know, it was a really meaningful gift because uh, I'm getting me a gift is kind of hard because I'm the kind of person where like if I want something, I'll just get it for myself, and I'm not particularly materialistic. Um, so gift giving for me is hard, and so with the pillow, it was a really nice gesture because I would have never done that for myself. Because for me that I don't know, that's like cringy or entitled or arrogant or whatever it may be. But since Nicole got it for me, it fits well in, and it's a really meaningful gift because it's like kind of the perfect gift because the road to getting 100 subs was tough. It took 11 months, and I wanted to quit all the time, and I was pretty close to quitting actually when my channel blew up, which is crazy. I was gonna quit at the start of this year in January because I was like, dude, like I've been at this for almost a whole year. I've done nothing. None of my videos have done well. I don't even have 100 subs. So hitting 100 subs, ironically, was probably the most meaningful moment for me. More so than 1,000, more so than 5,000 or almost 10,000. Because starting my channel was about this huge goal in my life of like maybe I could bring good into the world and maybe I could bring good into my own life. And when I started that, like I just didn't have any faith that I could do that. I was like, who the fuck am I to try to talk about these things? So when I hit 100 subs, also 1,000 subs, I was like, okay, like maybe this dream of mine and this goal of mine is potentially realistic. I don't know. I still have a lot of doubts, but at this point, like I kind of have to accept that like maybe I could be kind of good at this whole YouTube thing. Is the Ghost Burn a good supplement? Hey, Gavino. I'm gonna say Gavino. I don't know. Sorry. I don't take supplements, so I can't really recommend supplements. In general, I think supplements aren't really necessarily needed. And I think all supplements that are fat burners are bullshit because all the fat burners that actually work are illegal, and they're illegal because they're dangerous. So anything that says it helps boost metabolism is usually just a ton of caffeine and like green tea extract, and isn't super effective. So, fat burners I don't recommend because most of them are just a waste of your money, and the ones that aren't will kill you. So, take take that for what it is. Denver vlogs, I know, right? That would be amazing. LOL, fellow Midwesterner, it's so ugly here. My friend and I were trying to think of any hills or any or even hilly streets we know of near Chicago and came up blank. Mountains over Midwest any day. Yeah, it's funny. I wanted to move to Chicago when I was younger because I live in Lafayette, Indiana, where Purdue is at. So, when I finally could drive and I wanted to visit a big city, the options were Chicago or Indianapolis. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think anyone in their right mind would be like, yeah, I want to go to Indianapolis over Chicago because Chicago was only like 3.5 hours away. So I've been to Chicago so many times. It's actually where I proposed to my ex-fiance. I proposed to her in Maggie Dale Park, and hired a photographer. I don't know, it was kind of cute. But yeah, so I wanted to move to Chicago. My ex and I wanted to move to Chicago. But for me, the winters suck in Chicago, but there's no accessible nature. Like, I'm sorry, but the lake is kind of gross, and like I said, not a huge beach guy. So the thing that's difficult for me is like with Chicago, there's like no, like couldn't go rock climbing. There's no great hiking. Like you have to drive hours to get to any like amazing nature. And as much as I love big cities and I want to live in a big city, I need accessible nature. That's why cities like LA or especially Denver is so appealing because it still has that big city vibe. But like, with Denver, you can go hike a 14,000-foot mountain and it's like an hour drive away. So, at least for me as a person, accessibility to nature and hiking and climbing and stuff like that is super important. Jersey Shore, completely forgot about him. I'm in a glass cage of emotions mood every day. Yeah, that's my favorite. I think the funniest scene for me is probably when he's in the phone booth and he's like, milk was a bad idea. Or the scene where Jack Black kicks the very obviously fake dog over the bridge. When I was younger, I found that part so funny, and I quote that movie all the time. Like to some of my friends, I'll tell them to go back to their home on Whore Island. Great quotable movie. Such a thoughtful gift, definitely. I feel that I'm on 99 subs, but I'm the most inconsistent uploader. Yeah, I mean the struggle to be consistent with uploading or finding, especially in the beginning, you don't really know what content works because you don't have enough viewership. Like for now, like for instance, I'm at the point where I have a general good idea of what will do well and what people want to see. Because I have enough subs that like when I upload something, like it will either do well or like my spoken words don't do particularly well on my channel, which is fine. But when you're in that level, you're just like, you hate this? Do you like this? Like, what's working? What's not working? And YouTube is still trying to figure out. The algorithm's still trying to figure you out. You're still trying to get better at content creation and thumbnails and all that jazz. So, yeah, the beginning part, the first 100, they always say this. The first 100 is easier than your next 100. I would say the first 100, at least for me, it has been easier than like the next 8,000 that I got. Crazy. Oh, the fake, yeah, the fake dog was great. What movie is that? Anchorman. Anchorman is one of my favorite movies. It's pretty lowbrow humor. Or the other quote I love from that movie is 60% of the time, it works every time. Such a great quote. Yeah, and I want to serve and not just be ego based. Yeah, like as in terms of a content creator, I definitely agree. For me, like don't get me wrong, I love having subscribers and it's cool to see the number grow, but at the end of the day, like all I really care about is trying to help people. Accessibility in nature is so important to me as well. I really miss my hometown since it was right next to a forest and had some nice hills as well. Yeah, and where I went to school at IU, it's in Bloomington, and probably the only geographically diverse part of Indiana. And I miss like the nature was all right, like it's really good for Indiana, but once you've gone hiking, in the Rockies or in California or in Tennessee, like every other kind of hiking sort of sucks. But at least it was something, and I really miss having that because where I live, there's nothing. The first time I watched a video on your channel, you had 300 some subs. I was shocked, and at first I said, I thought it said 300K because your videos are so well done. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't really know where my channel will go. Like, one day maybe I'll get a silver play button. Maybe I won't. For me, YouTube has never been about fame or money or ego. It's been really about like how do I create value out of my suffering. Mastery says I like the hills, but there's something special about a trail or pathway that is not heavily traveled. Definitely. That's why I really like rock climbing. One of my favorite experiences is we did trad climbing or multi-pitch climbing. And so we went to the top of this mountain that was 11,000 feet above sea level in California. And there was just something so rewarding about going to a place on the planet that so few other people have. Because you go to these national parks and these really popular trails, or like something like the Hollywood sign. At this point, like millions of people have gone there because it's so accessible and it's so easy to hike. But at least for me, when I climbed this, it's called the Crystal Crag or the Crystal Cove climb out in California. It was just like, man, there's been like maybe a couple thousand of people that have been up here. So I don't know. I like feeling small because it makes my problems feel small. Jordan says, I found you like November of 2020. I was shocked at how you weren't incredibly high sub. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't know, my content has changed a lot, so it's gotten a lot better, but yeah, I don't know. Teresa says, I have to go. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Be kind to yourself. God bless. Thank you so much, Teresa, for dropping in and being so engaged as always. I appreciate it. Same here, Jordan. The quality of the content on this channel is a real gem. Thank you. Appreciate it. Simone, one of my other fellow Patreons. What are you talking about? No nature in cities. I live right next to a beautiful, smelly, toxic, super fun site canal. Brooklyn. Lots of tree pits with dog poo and tons of fresh air above 20 stories. Yeah, no, that's facts. Simone lives in Brooklyn or in New York. Nicole and I, it's funny, I went on a hike with Nicole and there's a lake in Bloomington that smells pretty gross. And I was like chatting about it. And she joked, she was like, oh, that's nothing compared to the Hudson. And I was like, okay, that's facts. I feel like the Hudson would smell awful. My favorite memory of living in Korea was going to one of the tiny islands and hiking it. No one else was there. And I got to just whack off my tea and be free. Okay, phrasing, the space between phrasing. Canals. Athena, how's it going? Come to the UK. There's so much nature and scenery. Yeah, but you want the weather though. The weather in the UK, from what I hear, it's not great. Yeah. I mean, I understood what you meant, but whack off has a very different connotation in, American culture. Hey, Final Fantasy, how's it going? Don't get me wrong though, there are definitely places in the UK, especially like Scotland, that I would love to go, or Ireland, like those famous bluffs. That would be dope. I would love to see that. Mm, The UK has, the UK has good weeks. Oh man, Manchester, nice. Hey, the weather isn't too bad as long as you like rain. I do like English accents. If I had to rank my favorite accents, don't get me wrong. So I really love shitty TV. So I love Love Island, both the Aussie version and the UK version. So there are some UK accents, just like there are some American accents that I can't stand. But there are like a maybe like a posh British accent that does things for me, along with Australian accents and Spanish accents. Midwestern accents, no, doesn't do anything for me. Southern accents, nope. Like West Coast, like Cali accents, not a thing. It's tragic. I hiked in CO with my sister. She said there was a bear attack a few days ago. I said I'll pass, and we left. Oh, it's such a you thing to do. My answer is rolling in the grave. The Scottish weather has a personality. Sounds like a euphemism. What about Manchester accents? I'm not entirely like I don't know enough about UK culture to place a Manchester accent, so I couldn't tell you whether I like a Manchester accent or not. My accent is your favorite. Yeah, the Annabelle is a nondescript general European accent. That's a good accent as well. Don't even try to deny it. Posh British accents do nothing when you get bullied at a private school. What? So like sort of posh, like a mid ground, like a lowbrow posh, right? Like someone from Essex, I think, or someone who's like any kind of I don't know. I don't know how to talk about your culture. Like anyone who's like aristocratic, I don't like that because like for me that's like sort of like having airs. It's a bit pretentious, so it's a bit of a turn off. But like somewhere in the middle of that where like I guess the British accents I don't like are the ones that drop a lot of syllables. I'm not gonna do my British accent for you because I respect you all too much to do that. Maybe if I found an example, but yeah, like a in between posh and something. I'm so bad at describing this. I think you mean Manchester, Essex. Yeah, yeah. When I was younger, I like I said, liked really shitty TV. And in my depression, I watched a lot of Howie. The only way is exit. I can't say it, but yeah, that's a good example. People on that show, like their British accents, are like a turn off because they feel like someone has airs or pretentious. Hey, Eris, how's it going? Jordan says London. Yeah, like a London accent's not bad. I think I like a Manchester accent. I'm not entirely sure. New Zealand accents are probably my favorite. Dude, one of my good friends' girlfriend is from New Zealand, and I think the New Zealand accent is probably one of the most wholesome accents. And I don't know if that's because like most of the people I've met from New Zealand are super wholesome, but the way she talks is so adorable. Like everything she says is just like wholesome and innocent. So big fan of those accents as well. No, not the Aussie men. I've learned I don't have an accent, but yet I have multiple. Don't know how that happened or what that means. Yeah, no, it's funny because it depends on what mood you're in. When we video chat, Shakira, like sometimes you'll have a very distinct kind of like dialect to you, and other times you don't have an accent at all. Yes, New Zealand is so wholesome. Aussie men, they do something for me. Yeah, definitely. South Africa has cool accents. Yeah, they have cool accents. I think a lot of accents are pretty interesting. Doing my makeup while watching you. Oh, right on. What are you going for? Are you going for like a fierce cat eye? I don't really know much about makeup. Besides what I've absorbed through my dating of people. Basically, have any accent that isn't clear doesn't vibe with me because I cannot make out the words they say. Yeah, I like a really good intelligible accent. Um, I think that's probably part of the reason why I don't like Southern accents is because sometimes they can be a bit intelligible. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't. I know like the basic. Like I know there's eyeliner, mascara, foundation, blush, concealer. But how you apply those things or the way eyeshadow, that's another thing. But I don't know anything more than that. Hodicus, and yet French accents are sexy and unintelligible. Okay, no. For me personally, I'm not a huge fan of French accents. I'm not shitting on the French people. A fierce cat eye. You're the cutest. Read to us with different accents. What is your favorite American accent? Uh, I don't. Probably not an accent. Like for okay, if we want to get into accents, I hate Brooklyn. I don't know why. I can't. I can't do a Brooklyn accent. It's just so aggressive. Sometimes Southern can be okay, I guess. I might fucking torture you all with my Southern accent. Andrew Moore. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm talking like real South. Like it gets to the point where they're just like talking like this and they just run their words together like this all the time, and you're like, what's going on? Bro, you're too funny anyway. Just do an accent. I can only really do a southern accent because like here in Indiana, sometimes people they talk like they're from the South, which makes no goddamn sense because we're as about as north as you can get. We're literally touching the Lake of Michigan. We're a hop and a skip away from Canada, so I don't really think we're in the South. Yet some boys like to have Confederate pride, very Trump state. So yeah, that this is my southern accent. Oh my god, I can't handle French accents. Sorry. Any accent is fine with me, but the German one does not pass. I am thoroughly afraid of letting it slip. He's right. All my cousins are Appalachian. I don't understand them. I just nod and pretend to understand. French female accents. But oh my god, please stop. I told you it's bad. That was a funny southern accent. Oh, but then it's like Jasper in the vampire movie. Don't judge me, and that's just like, oh my. I don't know which accent you're referring to. Valerie says, "LOL." Simone, Brooklyn accent is pretty bad. Haha. When I first moved here, I didn't get a word. I think the accents I don't like are the ones that are aggressive, right? And without trying to be. So Brooklyn accents are aggressive. German accents are very harsh. Like I said, I don't like people that sound like they have airs or pretentious, which is kind of ironically pretentious thing to say. So like a super posh British accent or like French accents can be a bit pretentious or like I don't know. But like we're speaking in generalities here, so like I'm sure you can find an example of every accent in the world and be like, oh, like kind of sexy or like a kind of vibe that. I'm sorry, but how about open your minds, people, and get to know the person? I mean, yeah, I mean, we're just talking in generalities here. Like, I mean, everyone has their own preferences, right? Some people don't like Midwestern accents. Like, some people don't like American accents. Like, it's all about like your association with those things. Oh God, that went off. Hold on a second. My camera died on me. Okay, well, that randomly died for some reason. We're back though. See, some Texan accents aren't bad. See. Do you ever FaceTime or just chill with your subs? So I've been doing kind of like FaceTimes or video calls with like my patrons. Right now, like a lot of my time is kind of devoted to my own mental health and being a content creator and all of that. So with my patrons, like it helps give that benefit to people that want to do that. In general, like I'm not against FaceTiming or talking one on one with my subs because at the end of the day, like um as a content creator, it can be kind of isolating because our relationship is very parasocial or one directional. The only thing is, I guess I'm kind of I get overwhelmed kind of easily right now, and I have a lot of people that reach out to me with their story and the things they're going through, and that's amazing, and I love that, and I don't want that to change. If you want to reach out to me, like my inboxes are always open, whether email or social media. I would probably say Instagram's probably the best way to get in contact with me, but when it comes to things like FaceTiming or chatting with I like doing that and I am a fan of that, but sometimes it's hard to schedule that and set that up. It's ironic because I have to go soon because I have a video call with one of my patrons at 6:30 or like 6:35. I told them a vague time whenever this live stream would be done. But I guess I don't know. It's hard because one of the things I'm really struggling with is setting personal boundaries as a content creator. And it's ironic because on my personal life, like I've been so open and honest, like there's nothing I really don't talk about besides like a few things. So I've kind of stripped myself of all these boundaries, but then when it comes to interacting with my community, I'm finding that already at only at 10K, I can't even imagine having more subs. I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. But I don't want it to stop. So I'm kind of in a catch 22 because I don't want people to stop reaching out to me, and I like chatting with you all, and I like interacting with you. But how do I manage that in a way that is healthy and conducive and doesn't burn me out? Because one of the things I really struggle with, and one of my toxic personality traits, is when I get overwhelmed, I tend to isolate. And so I would really hate to put myself in this situation where like I don't advocate for my mental health and boundaries and get to a point where I feel like I need to like isolate from YouTube. Like I definitely don't want to do that. Oh god, I'm so behind. I remember my first experience in the US was trying to buy a sandwich and the guy kept asking me Earl roll? Error roll. I took well, I don't even know what a hero is or a roll. Guy like a euro? I'm so unsure. Let's see. The space between, yeah, the Russian accent is so strong. It's interesting that it could be these beautiful words and they sound harsher. Queen is replying. It's replaying in my head again and again. Oral roll. I don't know what that is. I love the Texas accent. Right? Shouldn't be allowed. I think it's more of what you say than how you say it. Yeah, of course. Like, I mean, like at the end of the day, like, you know, I don't know if you're saying ugly things, it doesn't matter what language or accent you're saying it in. Like, what ultimately derives beauty, or at least in spoken language, is like the context and the content of what you're saying. Okay. Let's see. You have to look after your energy too. Definitely, I can manage how overwhelming that could be. I can barely keep up with texting my friends. Yeah, it's tough because these people reach out to me with these really dramatic stories, and I love that because it helps me feel less isolated. And like I've opened this door, right? Like I've opened a door for people to communicate with me, and I love that. And I love hearing from people. I really do. I mean, in my personal life, I spend so much time talking with people about what they've been through, but the thing for me is if people are going to take the time to send these messages, then I want to take the time to put in the same amount of time and energy to responding to the messages. So what becomes challenging is when I have 10 of those that I have to respond, not have to, that I want to respond to. Sorry, like word choice is important. I want to respond to these things. But all like those 10 hypothetical messages, each of them requires this huge expenditure of my energy. And as an introvert, it's hard because I'm very sociable and I love people and I love interacting with people. But the way I get my energy back is like, I don't know, withdrawing into myself or spending time alone. So I don't know. It's something I'm struggling with, and I'm trying to find the best way to be ethical and um, make sure I'm being fair to myself, but also fair to my community because I do love my community. I love my subs, and interacting with you all means a lot to me. Carol. Hey Ken, how's it going? Saying my isolate when overwhelmed. Hi everyone. Hey Bobby, how's it going? Henry, perhaps you could set up a Discord server. People could interact with each other in the chat and help each other out. Yeah. So I'm currently testing out a Discord. I'm testing out with my patrons. I'm gonna make that public to people once I iron out the kinks and set up rules and set up roles and stuff like that. The only reason I mean, you can message me privately if you want to get into the Discord. I just don't want to put it publicly out there because a lot of it's not set up properly yet. So I want to kind of get a feel for it before I open the floodgates. That way, it's a little bit of a smoother transition because right now I only really have like 16 patrons and only like 10 of them have joined. So that's a lot more manageable for me. But if you would like to get in the Discord right now, just message me and I can give it to you, or link you to it. I'm just not publicly releasing it until I feel like I can do so and manage it ethically and responsibly and make sure everything's in place. I feel like I want to apologize again, hoping setting boundaries will really work out. No, Simone, you don't have to apologize for anything. Hey Dina, your mental health and what is best for you is all that matters. Anyone should understand. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Um, but you know, it doesn't. That's the thing in my life. I'm black and white. Why does it have to be either or? Like, I want to live in a reality where I can interact with people directly and give people my time and energy without that being like a bad thing or costing me something. But managing that will be difficult. But with all things in life that are challenging, I'm really excited to take on that responsibility and navigate that because when it comes to my content, I'm always driving at how do I be an ethical content creator? Like, how do I do things with morality and virtue? And it's the same with my interactions. Like, first off, I would love to never get canceled. So I'm always making sure my interactions with people are appropriate and responsible. And also, I really care about people in general, even if I don't know them. So I'm trying to not add stress to your life at all. That would be great. Uh, I reached out to you with traumatic stories, and I know it can be a lot, so I try to make jokes. Yeah, I mean, be jokes. You can joke, you can be serious. Like, I don't have any expectations how you interact. My one rule is, just be authentic to who you are and just be yourself. I can set boundaries. I'm good with setting boundaries. I just want you all to be yourselves. Andrea, I'm sure on here it's more difficult than in person interaction. I'm normally an open person, but the type, if you don't want to answer something, just say it's none of your business or something similar. Yeah, Andrea, you do not struggle with being blunt, and I appreciate that about you. I actually really like blunt people. Hey, Chris L, how's it going? You have a great community. The Discord is great. Thank you. Let's. Oh God. Jamie Maxgold. Hey, how's it going, Jamie? Eris, you honestly don't owe us anything. The videos you make are enough. I really appreciate that you all say that. It's not so much about owing you all something, but more so the fact that like I want to help people and sometimes to do that I need to actually interact with the people that I'm trying to help and working to understand you all and understand what you go through makes this all so much more real for me because yes, I talk about my experiences because that's what I'm an authority on. That's like what I know best, but my channel isn't a vlog. My channel isn't um you know like look at me like I'm trying to ultimately help with the things that I can, and right now in my life the only way I can do that is through my personal experiences, but as I grow as a content creator I would like to do that through other people's experiences or maybe make it a little less about me as I get better and I grow. So a big part of that is hearing what other people are going through and the way in which they relate. Hola East, how's it going, Julia? Or Julie. 17 Patreons now. Oh, thank you so much, Jordan. Yeah, for Patreons and people that donate, like, the fact that people sub to me is crazy. The fact that people view my video is crazy. I don't think that my content doesn't have value. Like, I work really hard on the things I produce, and I'm proud of them. But the important thing as, as a YouTuber or Instagrammer, influencer, content creator is like you're not entitled to anything. And especially with my videos, it can be really draining or triggering or difficult to watch. So, the reason I find it surprising or humbling is not because I don't think I produce good content. Like I try really hard and I know I have limitations as a writer and as a video producer that I'm working on, but more so that I also understand that I'm not entitled to your time or your sub or your money or being a patron. So I don't know, to me, like I have this deep appreciation for the people that choose to interact with me on live streams or talk to me or spend time with me because there's a million other things you could be doing. And I don't know, for me that's a humbling thing. And one thing I am always going to be try to be good about is not developing some kind of ego or being pretentious. Oh my damn it. Shakira, you're already a Patreon. Stop with the donations. Shakira likes to make me wildly uncomfortable with sending me money, and I appreciate it. You do too much, and thank you so much. Let's see. This is what I would do if I had too much to do. Set a time limit, then pray. I believe the Holy Spirit will float. the most needed to the top, but you can't do it all. Yeah, definitely. I think managing and setting expectations and setting boundaries is important. And I don't know, like, it's such a good problem to have. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not complaining, right? I'm just being open and honest about the things I'm struggling with at the moment. And right now it's feeling overwhelmed, but that's a great problem to have. Like, I'd much rather feel overwhelmed because people want to open up to me then when I was at like just 45 subs feeling overwhelmed because I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be a good YouTuber. We, and you know, especially compared to like life and death situations with my ex, like I'm so happy to have these problems and I'm so excited to grow and question and try to figure these things out. Yeah, I'm definitely not complaining. Like I'm really grateful and really thankful and I love opportunities to grow as an individual, regardless if that's like self-development or content creation. I'm a fellow introvert and it's exhausting trying to juggle work, friends, and having enough time for myself without exploding. Yeah, definitely. Oh god, I'm behind in comments. Maybe you need to start public speaking like at schools, basically teach kids to not do drugs or that drug. That would be talking to people. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to do a TED Talk. I've been manifesting a TED Talk. I think it'd be really cool to do a TED Talk in the future. That's like an aspirational goal of mine is like maybe a TED Talk and maybe a book. I've never admitted that to anyone, so here we go. You heard it here first. Sudad, always put yourself first. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate like how supportive you all are. I have yet to meet anyone that has unrealistic expectations of me. And every time I set boundaries with people, they're super respectful. Yes, you can definitely send me a meme. I love it when people meme me. I'm a huge fan. On my Discord server, I literally have a channel that's dedicated. It's called Roast, or it's like Meme Christopher. So send me memes. I love that. Big fan. I love a good joke, honestly. Yes, I think you can consolidate the questions. Cancel culture is brutal. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely said something like I've admitted to some things that you could definitely cancel me for. So maybe that's coming for me one day. I think just being open, honest in yourself, people just appreciate that, and we get to know you. Your vibe attracts your tribe, so they get. Oh wait, so they get when you pause. Yeah, definitely. Hate cancel culture with a passion. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really here to make broad sweeping statements about cancel culture. I think it has a place, right? For instance, stuff that's going on with James Charles, right? Like when people do horrendous things and they abuse their platform and they abuse their power and they get caught unquestionably doing awful things, in that case, like I don't know, like do you deserve a platform? Do you deserve the ability to potentially be predatory? That's not my place to say. Like I'm not here to condemn or judge anyone, but I think sometimes cancel culture has a place because for years now in society, powerful people have been able to get away with awful things. And I think with the rise of mob mentality, it's more so about like, how do we as individuals gain power over people that have so much influence and so much power? As individuals, we don't have any power, but as a mob mentality or cancel culture, we can strip people of their sponsorships. We can strip people of their platforms. We can put pressure on institutions to do something to hold people accountable. And I think that's great. But as with all things, there are so many instances where that goes awry or that gets abused. It's sort of like the copyright system on YouTube. Like that's great that YouTube has a system for people to protect their copyrighted work, but that's just still the same system that gets abused. And so it's tough because like you can't get rid of that system, and I don't think we should entirely get rid of cancel culture because it has held some really horrific people accountable. But it's like, well, like at the same time it leads to these really awful and unfortunate things. So I don't know, I'm very torn. I have mixed feelings. I tend to have mixed feelings on everything though, so everything's shades of gray. Hard day at work, but otherwise okay. Good to hear that things are okay. A cancel culture. People are canceled over things these days. Obviously, if you've done something very wrong, then yes, you deserve to be canceled. You're too kind to be ever canceled. I don't know. I don't know about that. See, everyone, thanks for spending time with us. Excuse me. Thank you, Slice, so much for the super chat. I don't deserve it, but I appreciate it. It's because who controls these platforms? Interesting. Cancel culture is almost like modern day version of a revolution. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about. I'm also an introvert, but having ADHD, people think I'm crazy. Yeah, no, I have ADD. Well, I have ADHD, but the inattentive kind, so ADD. Um, Having ADHD and being an introvert is a really weird combination. I look like a spaz. Hey, CJ. CJ is another one of my Patreons. We had a really good video call the other day. Oh, this is an interesting moment to join this live stream. I'm not quite sure where you joined. Maybe me talking about getting canceled. Uh, do I need to teach you to say no? No, I'm good at saying no. And I'm really good at checking people. But in the past, I think I used to not be good at saying no at all. And I got to this point where I was so sensitive with setting boundaries and so sensitive with saying no to people and so sensitive with being aggressive and protective of myself that I went too much over the line. So I think for me, it's about finding that healthy balance between not overreacting, but also advocating for myself. Like the saying, never underestimate the power of a large group of stupid people. LOL, that is cancel culture. Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. There's times where the mob mentality, like people, it's so easy to influence people with manipulated news or exaggerated things. So I don't know. It is a very abusable and often there's just as many instances of cancel culture going right as cancel culture going wrong. So I don't know. It's tough. Layla, don't be late. I just joined. Yeah, ironically I do have to get going soon because I promised I'd call someone. Um, but yeah, just to I don't know wrap things up. Losing someone, be it a parent or a loved one or a friend, is always going to be difficult and it's always going to be hard. There's no right way to grieve. I don't know, there's definitely maybe wrong ways or I don't know, shades of incorrect ways. And I suppose there are like better ways than others. I don't know, as I reflect, I think one of the difficult things about traumatic events, especially your first big major traumatic event. So the death of my father was like I don't know, I didn't have a great childhood, but like when my dad died, that was the first major thing that had happened to me. And I think the difficulty about our first traumatic event is it I don't know, it sets us on this path and it's like influencing all the future choices we make. I believe in agency and I believe we make our own choices. I don't really necessarily believe in predeterminism, but I think, the events we go through heavily shift the odds of what future things we'll go through. And so for me, the thing I'm kind of struggling with is like the remnants of my dad's death and the way it's negatively impacted me, with the eating, my disordered eating and my binge eating, the way it influenced me to stay in an abusive relationship, and that abusive relationship led to other trauma. So yeah, I don't know. I think what makes his death harder is just all those other negative associations I have with his passing. Uh, but and then I also miss him, and I wish I could have gotten to know him, and I wish I could hang out with him. And the fucker was funny when he wanted to be, so I miss that about him too. Um, it sucks that my future partner won't ever get to meet him, that my kids won't get to meet him. Things like that are overwhelming, but also, um, mm, I love my dad, and I'm trying to be as happy as I possibly can about this moment. Let's see. Yes, it influences us. Influence without even realizing. Yeah, first few years after my dad died, we would get together and celebrate his life. I call it tell stories and laugh. We would each get something from him, like his wedding ring, etc. But only three of us. Yeah, with six of us, or well, four of my siblings are my dad's kids. So it's a lot of things to spread around. It's 6:42 and I have to go. See ya. Love ya. Thank you so much for dropping in, Ken. Great as always. Divine sending so much love and healing, keeps driving. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're amazing to get through everything and have the ability to talk about it with the world. Yeah. I don't know. At the end of the day, like, I'm not that special. And I'm not saying that in a, you know, derogatory way towards myself. I've done some crazy things and I've been through some crazy things, but, having the courage to talk about these things and having self-awareness and insight, that's something anyone can do, including you all. That maybe, maybe you don't want to ever be a content creator, and I'm not suggesting that, but in your own personal lives, like, having the agency and the courage and the strength and vulnerability to talk about your life in a way that's measured and responsible and ethical. I mean, like, I don't know, like, I didn't have anyone that teach me. My parents didn't teach me. I didn't have a romantic partner teach me. Like, I taught myself. And I was very bad at communicating and awful at expressing my emotions and anything but vulnerable. The person I was 5 years ago is a completely different man. And the only reason I'm the person that I am is because I had a desire to be better, and I was placed in situations where I didn't have any other choice. And I decided to be better, I guess. So, at the end of the day, like, the biggest thing I advocate for is that, like, anything I can do, you can do. Probably even better. I don't know about all that, but I don't know, like, I'm not particularly smart or intelligent or any of these things. I'm just someone that wants to create beauty, and someone who wants to be happy, and I'm someone who wants to move forward with my life. And I find that the more I talk to people, that's not a particularly unique set of feelings to have. It's more so just actually, having the courage to take steps towards those things, which is a choice, a difficult choice, a shitty choice, often with a lot of pain and suffering and time spent with very uncomfortable thoughts, but still a choice you can make. And so I don't know. I believe in everyone to have the same capabilities as me, honestly. Love you, East. Yes, all the stuff you said. My kids talk about my dad like they knew him personally. Oh, that's so sweet. I still live in a very abusive home. It holds me back a lot. I hope someday I can also tell my story too. Yeah, I think one of the most important things to do in recovery is um, you can't really process while you're still in the environment you're being abused, because when you're in an abusive situation, your mindset is to survive and numb and not process. So I wouldn't really recommend trying to process while you're in a traumatic situation, because one of the features of processing is the hyper awareness of the way you're feeling. But if you're in a traumatic situation, that hyper awareness makes those events more traumatic. So the first step is definitely getting somewhere that you're not being traumatized or abused. I'm so proud of you, bud. Love you. Oh, thank you, Annabelle. Dina says, yes, my friend who drowned when I was 17 changed my life forever. I never got over it. I just learned to live with it. Yeah, definitely. Loss can make us feel so alone, but actually, it's one thing we all experience. Yeah, no, there's a lot of commonalities. I'm doing a live stream with two of my subs on Friday, so be excited about that. But one of the things we're going to talk about is why does going through hardship, like, for instance, I can have these conversations with so many people in my life that have gone through drastically different things than I have. And I think going through hardship and suffering gives you this language or this new form of communication. So that's a topic I'm going to explore on Friday. I'm super excited. Yes, your safety has to come first. I'm sorry, right now I know it's hard to get our economically, but can you work towards it? There are a lot of programs out there to help people that are not publicly known. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's strange. The situations people are in are always so different. Jordan says, I'm moving away this September from my hometown where all my traumatic shit has happened, and I'm so excited to start my life as well instead of the damaged person everyone knows. Yeah, I mean, be careful though. One of the videos I'm working on is titled "Why." why fleeing the places we're traumatized doesn't always help. Because yes, leaving the places you were traumatized is important, but one of the difficult things is we go to these places that are completely new to us and we feel like everything should be different. But we get there and we're still struggling and we're still going through all these things. And then we have this realization, we're in this completely new place that doesn't have the same people or the same triggers or any of that. And we're like, well, what's wrong? And you come to this awareness that the only commonality between the place you were just in and the place you're now in is you. And you realize that, yes, you can flee from external triggers and external trauma, but there's this internalized triggers and trauma that you have. And that you carry with you. And sometimes, if you're not prepared for that realization and not prepared to face those things, it can be extremely overwhelming and cause you to fall apart. But by all means, I do think the first step is to leave. Yes, live stream Friday, or I should say Friday. I fled and came back in our work time. Yeah, I kind of did that too. I left from my hometown. I I wouldn't say the majority of my trauma is here, but a part of it. This is the house I almost died in, interestingly enough. But yeah, guys, I have to hit the road. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with me. I hope the new mic sounds good. I am excited about it. Glad my live streams don't sound awful anymore. For everyone that put up with my live streams before the mic, I appreciate it. It means a lot that you are willing to sit through awful audio. Hey Daniel, how's it going, man? Let's see. I hear those two people are cool. Yeah, no, without a doubt. So yeah, I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for spending some time with me on the anniversary of my dad's death. Having the chance to talk about it and interact with you all actually helps a lot. Because I'm not left alone with my thoughts and I'm not left alone to let them like kind of fester and get worse. So, thank you for being a part of my day and thank you for making this day something positive, as you guys always do. So, thank you. I appreciate you all. I hope your days are good. If you're also kind of after this live stream caught in self reflection of people you've lost, I want to reiterate I'm wishing you the best and you have my sincerest condolences. It does get better with time, but that doesn't mean it doesn't suck. So, I don't know. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a great day. Mm. Oh my god, the accent impressions. I'm never doing an accent again, so one and done here. Have a good day. The space in between. See you, Chris L. See you, Jordan. See you, Henry. See you, Valerie. See you, Sudan. See you, CJ. See you, Eris. See you, Andrea. Let's see. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.